All right, you guys, it's episode 32 of War Stories. And without further ado, I'm going to get straight to it. But before I do, let me just say this. So it's starting to become a little confusing between War Stories and Inner Demons. I'm going to tell you guys why. Because in Inner Demons, I talk about everything that has happened from the very beginning up until the present. War Stories, I kind of touch on different things that have happened throughout the course of time in my past history, and I go in at different points. So although I do cover a lot of the same stuff in both series, it's a little different if you guys understand what I'm saying. So I had to go in all my past episodes of War Stories to make sure that this wasn't something that I already talked about. And it's not. So I'm not regurgitating information. Anyways, let me just also say that I know for a fact some of the things that I'm going to bring into this story I've never talked about before, especially the stuff dealing with the county jail and some incidents that have happened in there. So I'm going to bring all that in, as well as some other things that were going on at that time in 99. I know it's been a while since I put out like 2 or 3 war stories for you guys. So I'm going to spend the whole day trying to bang out at least 3, maybe 4. We'll see what happens. It depends on if my mojo's working. So let's get straight to it. So check it out. This right here, I'm gonna bring you guys back to 1999, all the way back to when I was in Pelican Bay. Now I'm gonna spare you the grief of telling you about exactly what happened when I paroled, because I've talked about that specifically in one of my past stories, where I ended up getting out and I stabbed a couple individuals like within hours after paroling and almost got busted the next day. Those shenanigans, that dumb shit. So, you know, I told you guys how when I paroled from Quentin, the supervisor came up there like he was pissed off, put me in chains and made me ride all the way back to Ukiah with belly chains and shackles on. I'm free. I paroled. But I figured that was just something that fool was doing. I don't know, maybe he was scared, but they didn't want me out there in Ukiah any more than I didn't want to be out there. When the counselor called me out in Pelican Bay and told me that I was paroling to Ukiah, I didn't even know where Ukiah was. Matter of fact, I had got it confused with Eureka. When I was on the gate and the counselor was telling me, your parole plans have been changed. We're not paroling you to San Francisco County. We're paroling you to Mendocino County to Ukiah. I had to turn around and ask a homie, hey, bro, where the fuck is Ukiah at? And the homie was like, bro, it's like 40 minutes going north of Santa Rosa. So I figured it was Eureka. Later on, I would find out that Ukiah was actually a pit stop that we would stop off at when we were coming back from Pelican Bay. The Gray Goose would stop in Ukiah at a McDonald's, and the transportation officers would get off the bus and they would eat lunch. They'd go in McDonald's, they order 40 hamburgers, Big Macs. We'd all get like 4 fries. Yeah, right. We got old funky ass bag lunch. They wasn't kicking down. Them motherfuckers got off, they fed themselves, and that was it. You know what I mean? You might get to smell a Big Mac, but that's as close as you was coming to any McDonald's on that bus. Anyway, so I ended up getting out there in Ukiah, and I knew that this was going to be different from any other place that I had paroled to before. Well, at that time, I'd only paroled to San Francisco. But, you know, me not being familiar with Ukiah, me not having any resources out there, me not knowing anybody, it was going to be a struggle. I already had my plans as far as functioning. My plans at that time, I had paroled under Big Rock at that time. And, you know, this was right before BB got killed, Brown Bob. Miramontes or not Miramontes, Brown Bob Viramontes. I always get him mixed up with Dancing Bear. Dancing Bear is Miramontes. So, you know, when I was there in C2, that murder right there was being concocted right there in C2. Some of the players that were actually involved in the murder, Bad Boy being one of them, was there. And my cellie was privy to that information because he was a captain. He had been around for a long time. And, you know, I knew things that were happening because he used to talk to me in the cell. And at some points, I would tell him, hey, bro, I don't even want to hear about that shit. The less I know, the better. Not that I wasn't trustworthy at that time. It's just some things you don't need to know about. If you're not going to be involved, it's for your own good, because you might not never have the intentions to ever say anything, but just because you know and other people know that you become somebody that could later be suspected of, you know, leaking that information. So, you know, at times when he tried to share stuff like that about, you know, what was going on with BB or other things that were happening on the streets, I'd tell him, hey, man, I don't even want to hear about it. You know, although he was just, at that time, he was already working with the feds. I'm surprised that they were able to still go forward with that murder based on the fact that Rock was already working with the FBI. At least that's what I'm assuming, because I told you guys that when I paroled from Pelican Bay, I was under Rock. He was my cellie, obviously. So I had directives from him to go out to San Francisco to reestablish the regiment out there and to basically start generating money like every other time that I had paroled and went out to the streets with intentions to build or break new ground. So once I left, I want to say within 6 months, they found out that Big Rock was working with the FBI. Now, I don't know if he had just started or if this was something that he was doing over the course of time. But I remember somebody came out there. I told you guys about getting a visit from somebody that paroled from Pelican Bay and basically had a shitload of fucking kites from Conejo. And, well, I've talked about it, so I don't have a problem mentioning it since it's already been talked about, and it's out there because people cooperated and people talked about this already. So Big Roach, my boy from San Francisco, came out there with a bunch of directives, and basically he had information on Big Rock that he needed to share with me, and that was that he was cooperating. And what happened is I guess he was communicating through the mail, and one of his letters got returned to sender. And instead of it going to him, there was a Mexican mafia member, an Imero, that had the same name as him, David Ramirez. And that letter went to that individual instead of Big Rock. And he got the letter and was like, whoa, right? So he shot that to Stork and Silver. And whatever happened after that, I don't know. I was gone already, obviously. But anyway, so I get out there to Ukiah, and within a week, maybe 2 weeks, I hear Brown Bob's dead. He gets whacked over there in Campbell. And at that time, I was in touch with Caja, Mark Rodriguez from San Jose, because we were supposed to take care of something that he completely flipped the script on. He got out there and did the 49er fake. He knew we were supposed to take care of something. We gave our word. We both put our word on it. There was a C that was getting told on, and the individual that was testifying against him was out there on the streets. We had his information. We were supposed to whack the dude, but this individual obviously had no intention on following through with his word. Now, I remember having 2 or 3 conversations with him. He paroled before me, so he paroled with the information, with the address and all the information to the individual that we needed to locate. So when I got out, I called him, and I couldn't get a hold of him for like a week. Every time I called, it went to voicemail. I never got no call back, so I kept blowing his shit up. Like, my word was on the line as well to another seat, and the time was coming for him to go to court, so time was of the essence. Anyway, when he finally does answer the phone, he starts yapping about Brown Bob this, Brown Bob that, you know, and the stuff he was talking about made me uncomfortable at that time. I was like, bro, I don't even know why you're talking about that, but that's not why I'm calling you. I'm calling you because, you know, we got something we need to take care of. And yeah, I'm gonna get in touch with you in a couple days or whatever. Grand jury this, grand jury that. They're pulling all kind of people in there, and they called me, and I went in there for an hour, but I didn't really say nothing. I played dummy and this and that, and he was on some other shit, and it sounded like he was at a fucking nightclub. So, and he was drunk. So again, a week goes by. I don't hear nothing. I'm blowing him up. Finally, he calls back again with the same shit. I'm like, bro, check it out. I need that address. Let me get that address from you so that I can take care of it. Because you don't got no intention on taking care of this. And that brother's got court, and that date is approaching. Never got the address. He said he was gonna get it. He had it put up somewhere. It was secured at, I don't know, somebody's house, inside of a safe somewhere up under the fucking in a motherfucking what do you call those, a bunker under the ocean. I mean, I'm bullshitting, but seriously, like, he told me it's secured. I have it put away over here, and I can't get it until a certain time. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a bunch of horse feathers. It was bullshit. So that was happening at that time. Big Rock had flipped. Conejo was in trouble, and then you had, that whole situation with the C that got told on. He ended up getting convicted, and I had to answer for my part in that. Right after that, Caja flipped, so he was gone. It didn't matter. So anyway, back to what I was saying though. So, I knew that paroling to Ukiah was going to be different than paroling to San Francisco, obviously, because not only because I didn't have the resources and stuff, but I knew that I wasn't gonna have a lot. I wasn't gonna have a lot of manpower to deal with. A lot of manpower to recruit from, because I did a little bit of research on Mendocino County and Ukiah, and it's like out there you have a lot of American Indians, a lot of woods, and there's not really that much raza out there. There's really not that much norteño activity. You got a couple hoods out there, but at that time they were kind of like wannabes. They were like 5 steps behind. A lot of them just weren't laced up like that. Is the best way I can say it. Now Ukiah is growing, and since then, there's a lot of reputable homies coming out of Yucas, and they're finally doing their thing. Cats are starting to move out there and put them on the map. But at that time, it was hard. When I was out there doing my grunt work, trying to recruit individuals, trying to find individuals that wanted to work within the regiment, I like basically had to lay it all out to them. This is what it consists of. This is what you're going to be doing. This is what a regiment is. This is what a regimental commander is. This is the purpose. We're generating money for the less fortunate and all that, all those smoke screens, right? So at some point, I got discouraged because I couldn't really find anybody out there that was willing to make those kind of commitments. These guys felt like they were setting themselves up for failure. So I wasn't getting anywhere as far as recruiting. There was one individual that was out there that was like-minded, that had done time, had been to the Bay, that basically became my right-hand man. And yeah, it's wormy, and there's another story behind that. But he was the only one, and he helped bridge a lot of those gaps, because he ended up plugging me in with a lot of woods and a lot of American Indians and the reservations, where I was at least able to use those guys to work with me when I was running the regiment out there. So, I didn't tell these guys, hey, you're functioning in the regiment, you're generating money for the NF. I just utilized them. They were slinging dope for me. And as far as they knew, I was a connect. I was a supplier that was supplying them with dope, and I was giving it to them at good prices. They were making money, and I was making money. So that was as much as they knew about it. I didn't find any. There wasn't no sense in me getting into the politics of it and explaining, the bigger picture, why I was out there trying to generate money. So, when people hear about criminal organizations and prison gangs and shit like that. They get scared, and a lot of people just don't want to get involved in that. So that's the way that I had to set it up. So I had a lot of white guys and a lot of American Indians and these guys would all get cap money. It's called cap money, money that they get off the reservation from the casinos, because they are Native Americans, and they have these agreements worked out where they're allowed to build these casinos, and they're licensed to opening up the casino so that they can have people come in and gamble, and then all that money that they get, the revenue from the blackjack tables, the poker tables, the slot machines, that's all divvied up amongst their tribes, specific people that are named, their tribes, people that are of American Indian descent. So that money, a lot of that money that those guys were getting from that cap money, they were spending it with me. So, they were a good resource as far as that at the time. Anyway, so, this one individual that I had working with me, his name was Rob. He was a white guy. And cool ass cat, cool as fuck. Aside from him slinging dough for me and working with me out there doing different things on a personal level, he was he was good for selling 8-balls, teeners, and shit like that. Over time, it collectively it added up. So he was doing his thing. Now, this one day when I was out there, I was putting in a window-mounted air conditioner at the spot that I was staying in, and Rob came over to help me. I had to build a platform, and for those of you that are familiar with all that shit, it's not as easy as just throwing up a fucking 200-pound air conditioner in the window. You got to build a platform and make sure it's sturdy enough to hold it up and all that good stuff. So, he came over to help me with that. And at some point, I got a phone call from somebody. And during that time right there, I had plugged in with Mexican Mike from Oakland. That's who was supplying me. So every couple weeks, he come up with like 4 or 5 Usos, big ass Samoans. And, at first he started coming up himself, dropping off a pound, 2, 3 pounds of that dirty fucking crank at that time. And then eventually they had a female come up, and she'd always have it sewn in a fucking teddy bear. And she'd drive up, I give her the money, I get the fucking teddy bear, and she take off. So, I'm bagging all this shit up. I'm making a bunch of 8-balls, and it's not, it's not going as fast as I want it to go, like being out there in the city or Salinas or Oakland, where you're selling fucking ounces and quarter peas and half peas and whole peas. But it was going. It just took a little longer. So on this particular day, I get a phone call, and somebody calls me and tells me that they want like 4 8-balls, something like that. So I tell them right there, at that time I wasn't mobile, or the female that I was with, she had the car. I think she was at work. So I'm like, hey bro, can you give me a ride down here somewhere off of Gobi Street in Ukiah? Those of you from Ukiah, you know where Gobi's at. It's right in front of Safeway. It runs down across, what is that, South State Street. So anyway, he's got a big ass truck with them big fucking wheels, and I don't think nothing of it. I jump in the truck with them and we mob off. So it's only literally like 6 blocks away. I probably could have fucking jogged down there, but I was putting that air conditioner in. I wanted to get done with that. So I told him, bro, let's smash down there real quick. I need to drop this off, pick up the bread, and we'll come right back. So cool. We jump in his truck. We hit South State Street, and we're at the fucking light. And I see Ukiah PD pull up. Now, I'm going to tell you guys like this. Ukiah is a small town, small city. Everybody and their mother knew that I was out there when I paroled out there. The whole fucking town knew. And I'm not saying that talking myself up or not. For me, it actually worked against me. It was a bad thing, because I couldn't move around. I had too much attention on me. All the little wannabe Norteños, they all knew I was out there. Ukiah PD, they fucking definitely knew. I told you guys how they came and did that little welcoming party. Parole was working with them, so they had their eyes on me. They had their ear to the ground, and I knew I was being scrutinized by them out there. At that time, I was under investigation by that whole Black Widow investigation. I told you guys I was an unindicted co-conspirator in that case. Had I not got caught up in Santa Clara, I was going to get scooped up in that case. So the heat was on. Anyway, when I seen Ukiah PD, at first I was like, I wasn't really tripping because as long as, I mean, we're in a truck, what are they going to do? It's like, there's nothing wrong with me being in somebody's truck and you know, moving around in Ukiah. But I didn't know that this motherfucker didn't have no stickers, no tags. He didn't tell me until we had already left. He was like, hey, just so you know, I don't got no fucking tags. And I was like, oh man, are you fucking serious? But we had already left, and it was literally only 6 blocks down. So I was like, bro, just take the back streets. So that's what we did. Gobi was like, it's not one of the main thoroughfares. It's a little street there's nothing happening out there on Gobi. So we went around instead of going the other way. So anyway, they're at the light. When we get the green light, we cross, I kind of look over at him and I see him just fucking, they're just locked on to us. And I knew they were probably like, there goes that motherfucker right there, Boxer, Mendoza. So obviously when their light turns green, they bust a turn right there, a left, and come up right behind it. Sure enough, they see no fucking tags. Jackpot, let's pull them over. We got them, right? You know, this is an opportunity. We get to search the vehicle. This is a freebie right here. So as soon as they light us up, I got the dope in my hand, and I tell Rob, I'm like, Rob, take this shit. I kind of like try to hand it to him on the slunders, and he starts to panic. He's like, hold on, man. Nah, fuck, hold on, man. Bro, I'm on parole. They're gonna search. They're gonna search this whole area right here where I'm sitting, under the seat. Anywhere right here where I'm sitting, they're gonna search. Take this shit, put it down your fucking pants, bro. And he's like, all right, hold on. So he pulls in the Safeway. We pull into a parking stall. He grabs the dope, opens up the center console, and throws it in there. These motherfuckers, as soon as they pull up, they're out the car. They're already up on the windows before I can even react. I'm like, you stupid motherfucker. I already know what's gonna happen. So they come up, they're like, hey, what's going on, Boxer? How you doing? I'm like, I'm good. What's going on? And they're like, so where you guys going? And I'm like, we're just going down to see a friend, you know, down the street. It's like literally another 3-4 blocks. I'm trying to play it cool, man, but I know they're going to search me no matter what. There's no reason for them to, but I'm on parole, so they can search. So they were like, you know what, step out the car. So I'm like, all right, man. I get out, and they had me sit like on one of the little a little curb right there, right? They had me sit. Hey, just kick back right there. So I sit down, and they pull Rob out. So they're like, how come you ain't got no tags? This not now, you know, they got a reason to search the whole fucking truck. Anyway, they start searching. I'm pissed now. I can feel the blood boiling in my face because I know they're gonna find the dope, and I know I'm going to jail regardless, no matter what. It's not my truck. I'm not driving, but it don't fucking matter. I'm on parole. So sure enough, they're starting to search. I see him slap the dope on top of the hood, and you know, they search the rest of the truck. They don't find nothing. So they come over to us, and they're like, hey, what's this? Whose is this? And I look up, and like I don't say nothing. I play stupid, like I don't even know what the fuck is that, right? So Rob don't say nothing, and he's like, hey, so what is this? Somebody got us. take ownership of this, or you guys are going to jail. And they look at me, and I'm like, what about go to jail for what? I don't know. What is it? And the cop looks at Rob, and he's like, is this yours? And he was like, I don't know where'd that come from. So he's like, all right, so you guys are both going to jail. I turn and look at him, and I give him that death look, like, you stupid motherfucker. He knows I'm a 3-striker. At that time, the 3 strikes law they didn't modify it. I'm definitely picking up a 3-strike case. I'm out of bounds. I'm in the wrong fucking city. So I give him that look like, motherfucker, you better take that shit. And I'd only known Rob for a little bit. He knew enough about me to know that, he knew I had ties, and he knew I was affiliated. Obviously, I had a tattoo on the back of my head. So, I look at him, he knew what it meant. And he was like, you know what? It's my dope. It's mine. He don't have nothing to do with it. And the cop was like, nah, it's too late to play that game. He's like, nah, I gave you an opportunity. You guys both acted like you didn't know whose it was. So go let the DA figure it out. So I'm pissed, man, but I got to keep my composure in this situation. Like I said, I knew I was out of bounds. I knew that I was in a bad way, that this was the first time that I thought about the tattoo on the back of my head and how stupid I was to get it. At the time that I got the tattoo, I was like, you know what? I'm validated. I've spent all these years in the shoe. They got me documented on paper, so fuck them. I might as well just go ahead and flaunt this shit. At that time, there was no reason for me to worry about it. There wasn't no reason for me to trip on it. But for you youngsters out there that are thinking about going and getting a tattoo like that on your fucking face, on your forehead, yeah, it makes you look tough. It makes you look hard. And it gives you that look, right? That intimidating look. However, you end up getting caught up, and you go to court, you catch a case, and you decide to take it to trial. Those people are going to look at you like a fucking monster. Like, look at this dude. He's got tattoos all over his face. He's a criminal. So I knew that, having the tattoo on the back of my head, I'm thinking already, forethought, like, this tattoo is going to work against me. They're going to parade me into the courtroom with this cat being my co-defendant, and they're going to be like, you know what? You got this big fucking gang leader that got arrested out here in Ukiah. He's not from out here. He's from the city. And now he's trying to intimidate this little white guy into taking a case. That's what I was thinking already. And sure enough, man, that's what it was. That's what it would end up being. And I wasn't getting no favors out there from parole or law enforcement. They wanted to stick it to me. From the time that I paroled out there, they had intentions on trying to they didn't want to see me make parole. They didn't want to see me succeed out there. They were waiting for any opportunity to catch me slipping so that they could get me off the streets and send me to prison for the rest of my life. Straight up. Anyway, although I was highly upset at Rob because of the way that went down, I knew I had to keep my composure. I couldn't get on the dude's helmet and start fucking, I knew I couldn't come at him the way I wanted to at that time, because if I did that, then I was going to scare him all the way off, and I was definitely going to create, a nightmare for myself as far as him turning all the way against me and pointing the finger at me. So I played it cool. We got to the county jail, and I'm like, check it out, bro. If you fucking take this case, I will get you a lawyer. I'll bail you out tonight. I'll have your bail posted tonight. I'll get you one of the best lawyers out here, and hopefully you can get it dropped down to like a possession or something like that. But bro, if we go to trial and I lose, I'm going to do life. I'm looking at my 3rd strike. I'm already over the limit. I've been riding on 2 strikes since 96. So I'm already over the limit, and I've been walking on eggshells for a while now. So they got me, man. they got me. I need you to fucking step up and do this. I would do it for you. I mean, come on, man. I know it's a fucked up thing having to take a case and maybe having to give up a little bit of your freedom, but bro, I'm gonna be looking at life. So, he was with it. He was like, all right, man, I understand. He was like, and I know you do it for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll take it, make sure just get me out tonight and give me a good lawyer, man. So I'm like, hey, bro, a lawyer of your choosing. So I stuck to my word. I had him bailed out that night. Obviously, I had a parole hold. I wasn't going nowhere. I'm locked up for the duration. However long this nightmare is gonna play out, I'm stuck. So I get him bailed. I get him a good lawyer that he wanted, and he's set. So I hit the county jail. Now these people were leery as fucking me because, again, I'm not from that area, and this was the first time I hit their jail. I come in, I got Nuestra Familia blasted across the back of my head. The county jail officers knew who I was through law enforcement. That's how small that community is. So when I came in, the lieutenants and everybody, they were like, nah, hey, this dude, lock him up, put him in an observation cell by himself. He don't get to come out with nobody. We don't trust him. We don't know what he's gonna do. Now, over there in Ukiah, there's 2 tanks that they got a new jail, but they got the old jail is where there's like they keep most of the felons, and there's 2 tanks. I want to say one is definitely B tank, and that's where the guys that have been to prison, the older guys that are on parole, that's where they go. And then they got C tank. This is where a bunch of youngsters go, like just run of the mill kind of cats, just a bunch of anybody's. So they put me over in B tank, and a lot of these guys have been in the joint. Most of them are American Indians, a lot of Indians. There's some woods, probably about 6, 7 skinheads, and then you just got a bunch of just random, regular Joes, woods. That's all that's in that tank. There's no Africanos. There's nobody else like that in that tank. There's really no Norteños, nothing. So the first day I get there, they put me in B tank, but they put me in a cell in the front by myself. And, I'm on walk alone. I haven't done nothing. I've never been to this jail before, but that's how they're doing me, right? So the first time they run program, all these cats come out, I'm checking them out. I'm looking to see who's who and what's going on. There's cats that definitely look like they've been to the joint. Some of them, the skinheads, were all sleeved down. They're checking me out. A lot of the Indians will come up, hey, what's up, dog? You need anything, man? What's your name? Where you from, man? I'm from the city. I paroled out here. I kind of go over a little bit about my background and, what's happened since I've been out and how I got caught up. And they're like, damn, right? So, but they were cool. They were cool. And even the woods took a liking to me. Even though in prison, they're really considered enemies, nobody was on that trip over there. So, they started coming over to my cell a lot. A lot of them just wanted to come over there and just kick it, just talk. You know what I mean? So I was a different caliber of individual that they've hardly seen out there. And I'm not talking myself up. I'm just keeping it real with you guys. They weren't used to seeing cats like me out there that were in the game, deep in the mix like that were affiliated with the type of things that I was affiliated with. So a lot of them, they sensed it. A lot of them were they were trying to be cool with me. So a couple white dudes, they came over and they're like, hey, man, why they got you locked up? And I'm like, shit, I don't know, man. This is the first time I've been to this jail. I think it's probably because of my tattoos, my affiliations, the things that I'm affiliated with, and they probably don't trust me. And they're like, man, we ain't got no problems with you, man. You know what I mean? They're like, hey, man, we'll see if we can get at him. I know the lieutenant here, he's pretty cool. And I'm like, hey, that'd be cool. You know what I mean? I ain't got no issues with nobody. So they ended up getting that, the lieutenant, they somehow they communicated something to somebody. And I want to say it was like the second day that I was there. They pull me out, and it's the lieutenant, the sergeant, and a couple other cats, and they're like, check it out, man. Look, we don't know what your intentions are. You've never been to this jail before. We know that you paroled out here from San Francisco, and we know that you're affiliated, that you have some serious affiliations, and that's why we locked you up. We don't know what kind of game you're gonna play if we let you out with everybody. We know in prison the whites are considered your enemies. I'm like, look, man, I'm fighting a case right now. I ain't got no issues with nobody in this jail. I've obviously never been here before. I'm not gonna cause you guys no problems. If I have an issue with somebody, it's because I have a personal issue, but I don't know anybody here. So, unless somebody was to push up on me for whatever issues they got, I'm not tripping off nobody here. I'm not tripping off the white guys. I'm not tripping off the American Indians. I don't have an issue. You guys don't have to worry about me. So they're like, you know what? Fair enough. We're gonna let you out, and I'm gonna just tell you like this: if you end up hurting somebody, we're gonna press charges on you, and we're gonna make sure that you stay locked in a cell by yourself for the duration. I'm like, cool, man, that's fair. So they let me out. Cool ass white cats, man. Cool ass Indians. They took a liking to me, straight up. I programmed in that jail like I did anywhere else. I was like still in prison. I roll my mattress up, all my sheets, everything folded, my cell spotless. I had a way of programming that people tripped on me, and it was like, damn, bro, these guys are like the type of dude like, damn, you done a lot of time, huh? You've been to the shoot program, damn, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I'm telling them what they want to hear about the shoe, and a lot of them just had questions how it was, and what the program was like. And I'm in the cell doing burpees, and I had my routine. Most of the day I'm out there shooting knucks with these white guys, and playing chess, and trying to just pass my time. I wasn't one to really sit in front of the TV and watch TV. That wasn't my thing. I'd either be writing, reading, playing knuckles, or something like that. Anyway, this is something I've never mentioned before, and I'm gonna talk about it now. So I had a lot of love for the Indians up there. Obviously the Indians being a minority, being from, me knowing a lot about their history, and even me having some Indian blood in me. I had a lot of love for the American Indians over there in that jail. And there were a lot of good, solid Indians over there, American Indians. However, they're the majority. And, with any race or any ethnicity, whether you're talking about blacks, whites, Mexicans, Asians, sometimes when you become the minority, you begin to turn into a bully, that you start to develop that biggest bully on the block mentality. And that's what they were starting to do. Now, me just being observant, just seeing what was going on in the tank, I don't like bullies, and I don't believe in people getting bullied. And I don't like that mentality, that biggest bully on the block mentality. And I'm always quick to challenge something like that. So, the situation was this. The Woods, there was probably like the majority of them were cowards over there. And what I mean by that, not well, let me say this. What I mean by that is this. The majority of the Woods over there weren't affiliated with the Aryan Brotherhood, or with the skinheads, or with any kind of prison group. They weren't gang members. They were just regular Joes. So when I say cowards, what I mean by is if these Indians pushed up on them, they just pee on themselves. They wouldn't do shit about it. They wouldn't stand up for themselves. Now, the only ones that would were the skinheads. There was about 6 of them. And, over there in the jail, they had the Indians had like 4 tables, and then the Woods had their own table. And being that I was a northerner, I went in there and told them I wanted a table for the northerners. So nobody fought me on it. I got a whole table by myself. And, eventually other northerners, maybe like, I believe two of them would end up coming at one time, but usually it was just me by myself. I had a whole big ass table. And those tables were big as fuck. You could probably sit like 15, 20 people on one of, they were like the regular picnic table, but the long fuckers, right? So anyway, my point in telling you guys that is like, so I didn't watch the TV, not because I was avoiding conflict, because there's always conflict over the TV, over the phones, shit like that. But it's just me in jail. It's like, I don't get nothing out of sitting there in that type of environment and just looking at a dummy box, unless I'm fucking locked up in a cell and I can't do nothing else. But being out there in an open environment like that, I'd rather be reading, writing. My senses are fucking keyed in on everything that's going on around me, or playing knucks, passing time, playing pinochle or chess, something like that. So, I started to realize, or I started to see that, like, when some of the woods, these skinheads would go up there and want to watch TV, there were some younger Indians that started to bully them. They would, tell them that they couldn't watch nothing. Maybe there was nobody over there watching TV, and maybe a skinhead would be over there and he turned the channel, so he'd be over there by himself watching. And then you get one of these youngsters that would come up and just turn the channel and would dare him to say something. So, I started to see it, and it started to bother me. And it would be the same thing if the woods were the majority and there were a couple Indians in there and the woods started to do that. It didn't matter. The race part of it, there was no significance about that for me. What it was is just that somebody was getting bullied, and I don't like bullies. I'm quick to challenge somebody that has that mentality. I take it personal and it bothers me. So, I watched this over a course of time. Now, the other thing that was different about this jail is that none of these guys had weapons. They were so far behind. Nobody had weapons in there. All they did was throw hands. So there was nobody getting stabbed in there, nothing like that. Anyway, one day they bring in a mop bucket, and I see that the mop bucket is fully intact, and it has the handle, and it's just a big, long, thick piece of steel, like a almost kind of like a ice pick type of thing, right? It's a loop, and it's got a handle on it. So if you break it off and straighten it out, they're two nasty ass fucking weapons. So when I see the mop bucket in the pod, I pull it into my cell and I break off that thing, and I make two nasty ass fucking, they were like probably about that long, like ice picks. I put a handle on them and they were like that. They're straight. Those things were hitters. If you hit somebody with those, you're probably gonna kill them. If you hit them more than a couple times, you're gonna kill them. They were bone crushers. So, as much as I tried to hide it, motherfuckers seen that I popped that off. And there's always people watching. There's people that are nosy, moving around. So I'm in my cell trying to sharpen these motherfuckers, and then trying to find somewhere to hide them. And they were aware. They were aware that I had pieces in there. So eventually they ended up bringing two Norteños in. One was a Samoan Norteño, and one was a guy out of Sacramento. Straight soldier. I forget his name, but he was with the shit. I think his name was Louis or something like that. Yoked up cat, straight, somewhat of a loose cannon. He was the type of dude that, he had a temper, and he was kind of like me in some ways. He didn't play that bully type of shit, and if you came at him wrong, he was quick to turn it up, and it'd be some issues, you know, pretty quick. So we chopped it up. When he got there, we chopped it up, and as soon as he found out what I was about, you know, it was like, hey, bro, if anything ever goes down in here, I have two fucking pedazos, two nasty ones. And you know, the Indians are being cool up in here. The woods are cool. There's no drama. So there's no, you know, there's no need to trip on anything in this tank. But I told him about how some of the Indians were acting over there. And this is one of the reasons why I didn't talk about this situation right here, because I don't want nobody to get the wrong idea. I got nothing but love and respect for a lot of those Indians up there. And they treated me like a fucking brother, man. They showed me a lot of love. However, it was just a couple individuals that were acting like fucking dummies. And that's what it was. So, you know, because it's what ended up happening, which I'm going to get into in a minute, is a little out of the norm. Out of what it's not something that would traditionally happen with the norteño and skinheads. You don't back up. You don't see a norteño backing up skinheads, or let alone an NF member backing up skinheads that are supposed to be enemies. But again, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. So anyway, there's three of us in there now, and you know, the situation escalated. These youngsters, the Indians, are starting to escalate the problems that they had with the skinheads. It's starting to escalate. It's starting to turn into a personal conflict. They're dogging them out on the TV. They're not letting them watch what they want to watch. They're openly disrespecting them and challenging them, and they're grouping up in there. And you know, at one point, a bunch of them had went to the back and they grouped up, and they're like, you know, what's up? You know, they called them out and told them to come back there. Now there's like six, maybe seven skinheads, and they didn't want to smoke like that because there were too many of them cats, and they would have probably, you know, they would have punished them dudes. If they would have went back there, they would have packed them out and they would have fucked them up. So they were avoiding it, but it got to a point where I told them, you know what, check it out. I see what's going on, and I'm gonna tell you guys like this. I'm not with that bully type of bullshit, the shit that they're doing, you know, trying to control the TV, trying to control the phones, and you know, acting like this is their tank. So if you guys kick it off, we got your back. There's three of us, and they already knew that I had the weapons in there. So, you know, that gave them a little bit of fucking, you know what I'm saying? So now they're like, yeah, but they still weren't like ready to just go in on these cats. They were like, okay, you know, cool. So the Indians peeped the whole thing out, though. They peeped it out. You know, when you've been to jail, when you've been to prison, and there's tension or animosity in situations like this, and people are talking to each other and people are communicating, you can start to see who's who, and who's picking what side, and who's going where, and who are your ops, and who are you know, aligning themselves with you. So they seen it. They definitely seen it, and they seen that we had their backs. You know, bottom line, it never escalated, but they backed off because we were the equalizer. Even though there was only three of us, me, the other homie that was a fool from Sacramento, and the Samoan was a big ass Samoan. I mean, what Samoans ain't big? So that right there kind of like just it eventually just it stopped. They stopped doing that stupid shit. And I had even got at a couple of the Indians that were older cats that had been to the joint. There was a couple, one's name was Ron Jack. For those of you that are from Ukiah that might be watching this, you guys definitely know who Ron Jack is. And there were some other ones that I talked to, and was like, look, man, just kill it. You know, these youngsters, you know, if these guys were trying to bully you guys, you know, we'd be right there with you guys going against them cats. But that shit, it's not cool, man. And you know, that you guys need to get at these cats and tell them to knock that bullshit off, man. Because it just, it's a bad look for the whole tank, and you know, their whole purpose is just to bully these dudes, man, and it's not cool, right? So anyway, it stopped, but that was an awkward situation right there. You know, a lot of these skinheads would end up coming to San Quentin right after I got through fighting this case. They'd end up coming to San Quentin, and they'd end up in C-section where I was at. And I blessed them when I heard that, you know, such and such, Brock was one of them, a guy named Brock. He was a skinhead out of Mendocino County, Ukiah. When I found out he was there, I sent, you know, I had his tier security, my tier security, not his tier security, but I had the tier security on the second tier send him like some tobacco and all his necessities, everything that he needed. There was only like 2 or 3 skinheads in there, and they didn't really have anybody. So, you know, that's just the kind of dude I am, man. I would have done it for anybody. It doesn't matter. Race didn't matter to me. So that was one of the things that I've never talked about that before, that I wanted to kind of, you know, just throw out there to you guys. It's a trip how it happened. When I ended up leaving that county jail, I left those pedazos with the Indians. By then, a lot of the skinheads that were there, they had already they finished fighting their cases, or they got shipped out. But you know, that was sticking to the script right there. That's, you know, I couldn't see myself leaving those weapons with the woods, even though I was willing to back them up at that time. That's just going a little too far, you know. So I left them with the Indians there, a couple solid ones that I knew, and I was gone. So anyway, let me finish telling you about what happened from that point on. So, you know, as the case begins to progress, I'm there in the county jail. I'm fighting the case. Now, at some point, you know, this guy, Rob, he's out there on the streets now. He starts to flip the script. You know, I had a couple conversations with him. I call him, and you know, his thing was like, bro, you know, I just got through seeing my attorney, and he's talking about, you know, I'm going to end up getting a possession for sales on my record. They don't want to give me a simple possession. I'm looking at a possession for sales, and that's going to stop me from getting, you know, maybe going into the military, or going to college, or going to this and that. And I'm like, bro, look, I hear what you're saying, but listen to yourself. You're worried about not going to college or not going to the military. Bro, they're trying to take my life from me, man. I'm looking at 25 to life, bro. What's wrong with you, man? You know, and his thing was like, well, you know, you always said I was going to get a possession. Man, I didn't tell you nothing like that. I told you, hopefully you could probably get him to knock it down. But it doesn't matter, man. You're not looking at life. Even if they were to convict you on a possession for sales, you're not even looking at prison time. They were trying to give him probation and some other shit. So he starts flipping the script. I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm not paying his attorney fees no more. I need to get myself an attorney now, because now I'm obviously in a fucked up situation. So I end up hiring an attorney out of Santa Rosa named Monty Hansen. I never had any dealings with this attorney, didn't know nothing about him, but from the research that I've done, he was a reputable attorney. So anyway, I got this attorney now. But even then, even though I hired a reputable attorney, I'm still worried about the situation that I'm in. It's just not that cut and dry, because of how the case is playing out, because of how I got pulled over. It's really a constructive possession. Whenever you're in a vehicle like that, and you know the dope is right there. I did my homework on the case. Even though it was in the center console, it's still within reach of both of us. So technically, if they wanted to, they could have prosecuted both of us under a constructive possession. So it's just not that simple, man. So, you know, I hired this attorney. He comes up and we talk about the case, and you know, I go over everything with him, tell him how this dude flipped the script on me. I even sent somebody at this dude out there. I sent somebody over to his house to talk to him, and basically shake him up. Like, look, motherfucker, you committed yourself. The homie dropped money on your attorney. He bailed you out. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck are you doing? If you don't step up and take, take the case, it's gonna be bad for you, man. So then, it started to get kind of crazy where I didn't want to end up getting hit with more charges, like this dude going to the DA telling them that I'm having people threaten them, tampering with the witness and all that shit. So I just backed up off the motherfucker. I was hoping that based on the circumstances of the case, the facts, that I could I could fight the case and win on the merits of the case, because what it was is what it was. I'm in a truck. That's not my truck. I'm not driving. The dope is in a secure compartment of the truck. And technically, it's the owner's responsibility. Yeah, I'm on parole. I don't have no search and seizure issues. My constitutional rights, I don't have them, because you basically when you're on parole, you forfeit those, right? So I knew it was still going to be a battle. But this attorney, everything that I heard about him, he specialized in like appeals, writs, stuff like that. And I knew that was going to be a big part of the case. That's what this case was going to come down to, those motions and filing the type of things that I needed filed, just in case I did get convicted, that I'd have everything lined up for a fucking appeal. If it would have been a different kind of case with different circumstances, I probably would have went after a different kind of attorney. But because he was the type of attorney that specialized specifically in different motions and litigating the case for like appeals and shit like that, I knew I needed somebody like that. So anyway, this dude was an ex-prosecutor, ex-cop. So he knew all the shit from both sides of it. So anyway, I'm fighting the case. The case is going through the courts. It ended up going to preliminary. So I'm thinking, you know what? I have a good chance of the judge dropping the case at preliminary. Preliminary is basically when, for those of you that have never fought a case, that don't know how the judicial system works. So preliminary is basically your last stop before your case gets bound over to Superior Court. You lay out the whole case in front of a judge and you say, Judge, this is the circumstances of the case. These are the facts. Do you think that there's enough information based on these facts to take this guy to trial and convict him? Or do you think this is bullshit? It's a bunch of hogwash, buffoonery that, based on the merits, it's not going to go nowhere. It's some bullshit. So I'm thinking, you know what? I got a pretty good chance of getting it dumped at prelim. If I don't, I'm in trouble. So I go to prelim. Lawyer comes in. It's not even the lawyer that I expect to come in, because he's like, you know what? My thing is I specialize in those, the motions and that kind of stuff. I have a guy that's going to come in and argue the points of contention. You're not your truck. They ended up, so they raided both of our houses the night that we got pulled over. They raid my pad. They don't find nothing there. No drug paraphernalia, no scales, no nothing. They don't find shit. They drop a bottle on me. I come out clean for everything. Nothing. Not even weed. They drop a bottle on him. He's dirty. For methamphetamine. They find a scale at his house. They find a bunch of baggies and drug paraphernalia, all kind of shit. So I'm like, man, I got a pretty good chance of beating this at prelim. So we go to prelim, I get slammed. Motherfucker don't budge on nothing. He finds that there's enough evidence based on, the circumstances to bound me over. And it was, he wasn't playing fair. It was just like he knew that these guys wanted to wash me up. And he figured, you know what, I'm not going to deal with this. I'll let them deal with it. I'm just going to pass it through and let the Superior Court deal with it. So that's what he did. Now, when he went to Superior Court, I was like, man, fuck, I'm gonna pick up a life case on this. This is gonna be my third strike. There's nothing I can do. I'm in the wrong fucking county. You know, I'm in a bad situation. Now, you know, my co-defendant he's singing a whole different tune now. Now he's telling them it's not my dope. He's straight up. I get a report that basically says, you know, his position has changed and that, you know, he talked to the detectives, the cops that arrested us, and he was like, it's, you know, it was his dope. I was driving him somewhere. You know, somebody called him. So, you know, we were going to drop that dope off when you guys lit us up. He tried to hand me the dope, tell me to put it down my pants. I panicked and threw it in my center console. While we were there, you know, he gave me that look like you better take it. I mean, he gave him everything. So I knew that based on that and the way that they were going to parade me into the courtroom and lay it on thick as fuck, that I was going to end up getting convicted and I was going to get a life sentence on the 3 strikes. So there's nothing I can do. All I could do is sit back and let my attorney, you know, play his cards, man. You know, I had to put some trust in him. You know, as I was getting ready to go to trial, we end up getting ready. So based on the prelim, it's pretty much, it's almost like standard procedure to file a 995 motion. And that's basically like a motion to get the evidence dropped based on extenuating circumstances, if that's putting it the right way, or just circumstances that really don't hold enough weight to convict you in trial. The fact that I was clean, he was dirty, no paraphernalia, his truck, not my truck. Based on those circumstances, that's what a 995 does. It's like, Judge, look, these are the circumstances. This is how it played out. Now this individual is backing out because he doesn't want to do time and he's pointing everything back at me. So it's just supposed to be another day in court. That's all it is. We're going to go to court. I'm going to, you know, my attorney goes, look, don't have any high expectations for anything to happen on this day. We're going in there to argue the facts of the case. And basically, this is just to put everything on the record in the minutes so that, you know, in the event you end up getting convicted at trial, you'll have everything laid out and set for an appeal. His thing was, the attorney, he felt like we were going to go to trial and win at trial. He was like, we got this at trial, don't trip. But this right here was just laying the groundwork for a possible appeal in the event things didn't work out. So anyway, that day, I remember the day that they called me for my 995 motion, you know, the lawyer had put a lot of work into it. I read the motion before it got filed, and I was like, man, this motherfucker, he touched on everything. He laid it all out. So I still didn't have any high expectations. My thing was, I was looking at it like this. Even if a judge really looked at the case and felt like this is bullshit, that I knew that they weren't going to dump it, because I didn't think anybody had the balls big enough to dump it because of who I was and everything that was involved. I felt like the judge would just say, you know what? He's probably guilty. And even though this is, I should drop it based on this evidence, I'm not going to do it because I know the DA don't want me to do it. And I know the cops don't want me to do it. And, you know, it's just not politically correct. So I really didn't have any high expectations. I end up going to court that day. I go to court and I'm in court and there's a homie, he's sitting next to me, Casper from out there. And you know, we're in there talking about some other shit. And that's the thing about Ukiah too. Everybody that goes to court together, like you hear everybody's case. Everybody sits in the courtroom and they do one case at a time and you hear all the facts of their case. Somebody's there for some weird shit. As shit's getting put out, they're going to pull your covers and put you on blast. So my case comes up and that day, matter of fact, my real attorney didn't even come in because, again, he felt like it was just going to be another day, that this was just to lay the groundwork. So he had another attorney come in to fill in for him. So, my case comes up. The judge is like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. So last night, I read through this motion, this 995 motion. And, I read through it very carefully. I went through all the evidence. Matter of fact, I read it 2 or 3 times to make sure that I understood the gravity of the case, everything that was involved. And he says, there's no doubt in my mind that no matter how I rule on this case, that it's going to come back on appeal. Whether I rule for the defense, for the defendant, or for the people, this case is going to come back on appeal. He goes, but I'm going to tell you like this. Going over the evidence in this case, going through everything that was involved, everything from the UAs to the evidence that was found at the residences, to how the drugs were found in the vehicle, I cannot, in good faith, deny this motion. And even though I was listening to what he was saying, I still wasn't catching it. He was like, I cannot deny this motion. It's obvious that, there's a lot more going on than what I know. So he tells me, based on the evidence, based on the circumstances that are articulated in this motion, I have no choice but to dismiss the case against Mendoza. And it took me a minute for it to register. It just wasn't registering. The homie was like, he elbowed me. He's like, bro, they just fucking dropped your case. And I'm like, huh? He's like, bro, they just fucking kicked your case out. And I'm like, nah, bro. He's like, homie, they just dismissed it. And I was like, wow, bro. I honestly thought I was going to get convicted. I honestly thought that, I had a good case, but I just felt like I was going to get convicted and I was going to have to come back on appeal because, even when I was going through prelim, the parole officers were out in the field trying to get information from people on the reservations, from the streets, people that would say that I was selling dope out there, that I was a connection, that I was out there slinging dope in their community so that they could have them come in as witnesses against me. So I was like, man, wow. I see the parole officer come in and then come into the courtroom, walk up to the DA, whisper something to him, and then leave. So like a couple times. So I knew what they were doing. And later on, I found out that's exactly what they were doing. They were going out in the field trying to find people that were willing to come in and say, yeah, yep, he's a dope dealer. He's supplying dope for, for such and such, or we know that he was, providing dope to rob. So they dropped the case, and, it took me a while, even after I left court that day, it took me a while for it to really resonate that I just came up from up under a life sentence. That's how close I had come back in 99 to getting a life sentence the first time. And I knew, though, that like I wasn't tripping. I knew I was going to get a parole. I knew I was going to get a parole violation, but I didn't give a fuck about that. Go ahead and give me a flat year. I will gladly give you another year for a parole violation. But coming up out of that life case, I knew that once my parole violation was up, I didn't want nothing else to do with Ukiah. And I really didn't have to do nothing because they felt the same way. When I got ready to parole that time, instead of them paroling me to Ukiah, now Ukiah stepped up and they're like, we don't want him. Ukiah the parole supervisor got in touch again with the administrator, the regional administrator, and said, hey, we don't want him out here. So they got it to where they shot me out to Monterey County. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't have to do nothing. They took care of that for me. But when I heard I was going to Monterey, I was like, boy, this shit just keeps getting better and better. That right there, when I found out I was going to Monterey County, to me it smelled like a setup, straight up. It smelled like shit. Okay, you got the Cap Saloon thing that's going on right now. The feds are out there. You know, they just raided a bunch of pads in connection to that case. Black Widow's still going on, and there was all kind of other shit going on at that time. So I figured, you know what, they're sending me out there in the middle of this shit just so I can get caught up. That's exactly what they're doing. So once I paroled, after getting out from that parole violation, and I was out there in Monterey, you know, I had somebody bring out all my property. The female that I was seeing out there in Ukiah at that time, it wasn't Vicky, it was another female. I had her come and drop all my stuff off, and I didn't want nothing else to do with Ukiah. But now I had to contend with Monterey County, board off, Tim Work, and all the shit that was going on out there. Now, there was something else that I was gonna bring up in this story right here, but I'm gonna hold off on that because really I can make another war story out of it. It's something good that, you know, that ended up happening when I went in on that parole violation. I ended up doing a removal on the yard just so I could stay in the adjustment center with Mike Eel. I didn't want to leave. There was some good homies there, and I wanted to stay. I knew I had been there for like 3 months, and they were going to put me on a bus. I was comfortable. I had a radio. It was summertime. It was cool. You know what I mean? I was like, man, I don't want to leave. Let me get this motherfucker just so I can catch a 115 and stay. You know, there was somebody else that was supposed to do removal, but I was pleading with Mike Eel, man, please let me get this dude. Let me just mop him up real quick so I can stay. I don't want to leave. So I'm going to talk about that in my next war story. Again, I'm going to try to get a couple of these out to you guys tonight, but this is episode 32, War Stories. I hope you guys like it. This is your boy B, and I'm out.